Welcome back, friends, to the Shelley Panzarella Show. I'm very excited about today's podcast. They were actually the first people who ever taught me about business owners, about entrepreneurship. They are John and Estrella Dela Cruz, also known to me as Mom and Dad. So welcome to the show.
Hello.
I know this is a different, unique setting, but I really wanted to bring you on because as I've thought about my guest, this podcast is about leadership, it's about entrepreneurship, it's about small business owners. And really, you are the first people in my life that talk about that actually encompass all of those: leadership, entrepreneurship. And so I want to kind of dive into that. So you formerly owned a business which was tokened after my dad's name, John's Bakery, right? I'm assuming that's what But I know prior to owning the business, you had W-2 jobs. And so going from W-2 to corporate to entrepreneurship, I think I'd love to jump into that. So tell me a little bit about what you did before you started the business.
I used to work in the operating room, so I had moved from one job to the other, one operating room to the other, because I got bored. I mean, I would get bored in my job. And he did the same thing.
You weren't a nurse though.
When we got to Las Vegas,
Yeah.
I went to the union and registered
Culinary?
culinary union. And then at that time, I didn't know any job, so they give me any kind of position.
Oh, really? And so what did you start off as?
As dishwasher at the
Really?
MGM.
Oh, so how did you become a baker?
Dishwasher at the MGM. And then at the MGM, I met a man that in the ED, employee dining room. And then he told me that we have opening for baker helper. So you want to be a baker helper? And then I said, yeah.
Wow.
And then 2 weeks later, this guy also got a 2 job. He worked at the Tropicana also, and then Tropicana, they need a baker. So from then, I moved to Tropicana as a baker, so the income moved up a little bit, a little bit more. And then that's what I worked like 9 years over there, and then after that, another friend of mine told me that we have, you want to see a bakery? There's a bakery for rent, and then you go look at it, and maybe you can open up a business. So,
Really?
yeah.
It was a
Wow.
lease option, so we were leasing it. We came into the business leasing the the equipment and all that.
Yeah.
And then I think we were there 3 years.
It was a nice bakery. They have everything.
It was.
Where was it located?
It's on
I don't remember.
I remember the Maryland Bakery, but I don't remember.
Highland. On Highland.
I do remember that one. Yeah, over by Circus Circus.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you guys leased that. So, okay, so I think that's shame on me for being your daughter for 50 years and not knowing that. I remember the Tropicana. The biggest memory I have around that is the strikes that they used to have.
Sleep in there.
You used to have to sleep in there, and that was just one thing that was part of.
Yeah, because at that time he already got promoted to assistant pastry chef.
Yeah.
So he, as part of the union, they have to be in-house. But he always wanted to come home, so we would cover him in the back of the station
I remember
wagon
that.
so we could bring him inside the hotel and get off and go back to work.
That's interesting. And so this friend of yours was the reason that you decided to operate this business. Like,
Right.
what made you think, oh, I can just jump out from my normal W-2 job and start this business?
Well, at the time, I was working from the Tropicana and my business.
You're
And
doing
then-
both?
Yes. And then my business got busier, and now I need help from people. So, I hired people now, so I quit my job.
Wow.
And then went to the business, and now we have a lot of wholesale now
Yeah.
because that area is a wholesale business, no retail.
Well, yeah. So talk a little bit about that, because it was 1986, right, when you guys made that transition. And I know for those of us in 2024, look at all the beautiful hotels today.
Yeah,
The hotels were not what they were then.
No,
yeah,
they
no,
weren't.
they're like an apartment.
A lot of the hotels especially the downtown
Yeah,
hotels,
yeah.
didn't have their own bakery. So that's why the wholesale business was rampant. I mean, we practically were one of the first ones that started with the pastry part of
With a what?
the pastries.
Oh, pastry. Okay.
Because a lot of the breads were already being sold out as wholesale products, but nobody would bring the buffet pastries to the different
Oh,
The
hotels.
hotel,
okay.
yeah.
So we were one of the few that originated. There's like three of us that started in '86.
So when you went to that bakery, when you leased that bakery out, were they already doing that, or was this something you created?
They were bread and bagel.
Yeah, just
Wow.
bread, yeah.
Okay. And then so how did you get the idea or created the concept to go and wholesale to the casinos at the time?
They have all the equipment that I need. And then they are all good equipment and big oven, nice freezer, walk-in freezer, walk-in cooler.
yeah.
They're all big. So
Yeah.
that was a good for wholesale business.
But how'd you get the accounts?
A lot of times you looked at the buffet, they were all different products.
Yeah.
So there was no consistency. So then we went, he knew a lot of chefs that were from Tropicana and had moved into the
I
different
gotcha.
hotels.
Okay. Okay.
So I went in and brought samples and talked about the product, and then created accounts with them. And that's how we built our wholesale account.
So did you quit being a nurse when you opened the business?
No, I quit in 1991. I would work during the day at the bakery, and then at night I would go work 11 to 7. I would work at the hospital.
And then you also got your real estate license.
I did the real estate, but this was when the Hawaiians were moving to Las Vegas. So all I did was getting all these calls, referrals.
Okay. So you just did it.
I didn't market myself. It was just there that I had a license.
Wow, that's interesting. So we'll talk a little bit about your real estate career then and now, but tell me a little bit more about the bakery. I think that's very interesting because I think the concept of owning a business, you didn't have a business plan, right? It was just kind of.
We didn't. I was brought up, growing up, that for somebody to earn money, jobs were not available in the environment I grew up. So my parents practically had these used garments that we had to go sell from different flea markets.
Oh, okay.
So we'd pack up. There's like 4 or 5 of us that would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, hop on the bus with these big bags to go to the flea markets to sell our used clothes.
Wow, that's Sydney today doing Poshmark and all that other stuff, different format, I guess. So you were raised to be a business owner, basically, right? That's how you.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And his dad too was.
When we grow up in the Philippines here, my parents, they are business minded also. Like my dad bring the money, and then my mom saved the money, and then he kept buying real estate in the Philippines.
Oh, okay. Okay. So different type real estate investor then. That's great. So that's why it's all ingrained in our bones to be in the real estate industry and the investor side of it. Okay. So you guys owned the business. You went out and started to create the opportunities by going out and going to the chefs and basically having them sample.
All right.
Yeah. And then they would just take on and say, okay, well.
It was a layered marketing. You'd go and hit your bottom chef, and then he'd go, okay, let's go talk to the main chef, and then you go to the food and beverage.
Okay.
So once you got into the food and beverage, you had pretty much everything that's in there, like their wedding cake,
Yeah, everything.
any of their parties we made, and we marketed to a lot of the chapels too after that.
I remember that. Yeah. You had a really great delivery driver girl that helped in making sure those cakes, the wedding cakes were out. Because that was another thing that I think that the bakeries, period, didn't have access to do the big pastries, like you said, but then also for the wedding chapels. I remember that was like a big thing for you guys.
It was like we would sell 30 little cakes because at that time they were giving away. It was part of their wedding plan.
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
to get a little wedding cake.
Well, so you guys moved from your wholesale side of it, and then I know what we call the Maryland address, that became retail. You had a front store.
Right.
We had a front store. That one was still pretty much on the wholesale at 75%. We had 25%
Retail.
retail. We had, that location was right next to a
College, right?
gym.
And
Was it?
also
Yeah, Camelot.
UNLV too.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I remember it for the school.
Right.
Well, UNLV's right there, so we had a lot of the traffic from the kids coming in. But we had permanent people that would come in from the gym. Like we had a set of senior citizens that would come in on Wednesdays and come and eat their big apple fritters. Because that was after they went to the gym, they would come in and sit and eat there. And they would sit like 2 or 3 hours there. I mean, these are senior citizens that had been business owners who would talk about their experiences.
So with the Highland address to this address, was it because the lease expired on that made you move, or was it that you wanted to go into a retail space?
One of the marketers or the dealers that had actually was a equipment vendor. He said that there's a storefront if you want to go check it out. So we did. We went and checked it out, and it had all the equipment that we wanted.
Same equipment that you had at the other bakery?
And it had a storefront. So we thought, oh, we'll venture to the storefront and see where we can
Wow.
get it bigger or better.
And what was the result of that?
Well, we lasted there till 2000.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I think,
Wow. Almost 10 years.
yeah, almost 10 years. And we
Yeah,
got
that's
tired
all.
of that.
Yeah, what I was going to say, because I know you shut down the business, but
Yeah.
what shut it down?
So in 2000, you guys were in school. Both of you were gone. And then we said, did you guys want to take
over the
over the
business?
bakery? And the first thing was, no, we don't want anything to do with it. Because we were going to venture into the automation. Because at that time, everybody else was, like the wholesale downtown was picking up automation from LA. And they were selling the buffet products at 3 cents
Come down.
Wow.
with automation. And these
Yeah.
were fruit tarts that we had to put manually on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we couldn't sell it at 3 cents. So we were going to go into $1 million loan to get automated. But no, we figured, well, if nobody wants to do it.
It would just be you guys. Man, I had no idea. Could you? Because the irony around that is today we're looking for a bakery. We're looking for a coffee shop or something like that as like a lifelong dream or whatever of mine. So that's interesting, though. I think as a disruptor for you, because I think in every industry there's some form of disruption, and part of it is automation or just advancement in that
Exactly.
industry, right?
Exactly.
I thought it was a lot of. I thought the reason for the disruption was because a lot of the hotels started to create their own bakeries inside of their.
That too. I mean, but majority it was, we had big competition from LA with frozen products that came into the buffets at the price points that they were selling. We couldn't compete.
So the other bakeries that, because you mentioned 3
Yeah,
bakeries that
there's
were doing the same thing.
There's still one, but he converted to automation.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So he's got automation in his bakery right now, the one that survived or is still right now in existence.
So looking back on the business, for those who are listening, what would you say was one of your greatest accomplishments in the bakery?
Got you graduated.
Amen to that. I was always a good student. You mean John?
You, both of you.
The goal was to at least get us through high school
And not only
college.
that, we
and
wanted
college. That's true.
We grew up to where, I mean, especially me, there's 8 kids in my family, and when my dad became disabled, money was not like it used to be when I was.
Yeah.
So thinking of that, we knew we had to impart that into our kids.
Yeah.
And we wanted to keep their standard of living a little bit elevated. So in order to do that, you had your 9-to-5 jobs wasn't going to cover it.
Yeah.
We couldn't put you in private schools.
we wouldn't have been able to. That's true. I never thought about, when I think about that today, even with Sydney, that I think a lot of that is same feeling, right? Because now that she's in college, I'm like, okay, you got 4 years, and then like you kind of are on your own. You got to figure this out for yourself. That's interesting. I guess I knew that, but I didn't really realize that was it. Well, and I'd like to talk about what Vegas looked like then, because I remember some stories that you used to tell us. Obviously, I won't want to disclose it online. Maybe they're still out there, but Vegas in the 80s was really like, it was, mob style, right? Yeah. And I know you guys had some stories about some run-ins with some of the people in that.
Well,
Because that's how business was, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was a cutthroat. I mean, it was a real cutthroat business.
So that was real, what you
was
see on
real.
TV in the movies?
Because they would come in and pay them under the table. And for somebody that would compete, you had to beat what they were paying under the table.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of chefs that would take that under the table because they, being on the corporate side, you didn't make as much. I mean, bonuses wasn't rampant then.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're saying that the other bakeries who were maybe participating with that other side of business were benefiting from that?
They were, because we would create the business, we would get the business going, and then all of a sudden the chef will go, well, if you can beat this and give me this.
Okay. And that was because you think it was coming from, but you guys also had some unique stories about people in the industry that either came through the bakery and then you'd find out like later down the road something had happened to those people. I remember that story.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. We had, and I don't know if we should quote names, but
No, I wouldn't quote names.
there was we were involved with a wholesale caterer. They were big in catering here in town. They did the schools, they did the shows. They did, in fact, during the fire season, they did the fire season. And so we would supply their products. We would fill up a whole rack, which is 24 sheet pans of brownies to go to the fire.
Oh, wow.
We had big accounts with them. We would run a $30,000 account with them, running account every month. And then this guy decided, or I don't know whether he decided to kill himself or somebody put him to sleep.
Wow. And he was the head person of that wholesale for you guys? So that
killed the business. And then when they went to disperse his properties, we found out that there was nothing left because his truck that he uses for catering, had 5 owners.
Wow.
And I don't know how they had 5 titles coming out of those.
That's interesting.
So that's all part of the mafia.
Yeah, the mob, the old Las Vegas. So it was true. You guys got a little part of it. You didn't participate in getting the envelopes, though, huh?
No, we didn't.
So what would you say, looking at your business, what would you do differently in that business today, knowing what you know now?
Knowing what we know now, I think, to start out a business, you really have to have a business plan. We went in there with flying with the seat of our pants because we just knew how to take in and take out. I mean, what you got, spend what you needed to spend, and then that was your profit. But today, that's not how it can. You can't function that way.
Yeah. So what would you have done? Just hired created a business plan, but then hired like an accounting person, or? Well,
we had an accountant that helped us maneuver all this stuff, but it was to the point where you have to sell the same product because that's what was sold in the market. Mm-hmm. It was how to entice or get a different product to change it, still having the same product for the buffets, having it at the same price point. Yeah. So those are the things. We didn't have that ambition. We didn't have the innovation to do all that.
Got it. What do you think, Dad? What do you think you would do differently in the business if you look back on it?
I probably still do the same thing.
You would? Well, I feel like you still do. We'll talk a little bit about that too. But yeah, you'd still be doing, because after you guys shut down the business, you went to
Caesar's Palace.
Caesar's Palace and became a pastry chef there,
Just a baker.
baker there. Okay. And so you quit you got us through college, and then you decided that you'd go back back to working.
Back to work. Yeah, at the time I was still at Planet Hollywood.
Okay.
Caesar's Palace bought the Planet Hollywood, and then the Caesar's Palace people told our management that we don't need too many chefs here. If you want a job, we have a job at Caesar's Palace and all over, the company. So I decided to move to Caesar's Palace.
And was it because you knew people also at the other bakeries that like the chefs there that,
Caesar's Palace?
yeah.
No, they just moved us to different
Well, they
hotels.
just automatically moved you. Okay.
Yeah, because what I think was because of seniority also included. They don't want, too many seniorities in that hotel.
Yeah.
But Planet Hollywood.
Yeah. So if you guys could have figured out how to do the automation and such, you think you'd still be in the business
We probably would
today?
today because
Even though your kids are in the real estate industry?
Well, the thing though is, if we kept that business, you have generations that are coming up. I mean, it's the kids that work. I mean, are being born now are ready to work in that same industry.
Yeah.
So it should have sustained it if we did go into automation.
Yeah.
We would have had to use less people, which was our biggest cost.
Overhead. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. Being your kids also. Well, so you went back into basically working. Well, you did, right, Dad? Working for other people. So what do you see the difference as being your own business owner and then having to work for others?
Owning a business is always better
Yeah. Why do you think that? Why do you think it's better to own your own
because
business?
you can always increase your income.
That's true. Yeah. I agree.
There's a lot of flexibility too.
Yeah. And you also have the capability to call your own shots,
Yeah.
right? And do whatever it is or isn't that you want to do. Yeah, I would agree. I think that, just hearing your story on how you start, I think in small businesses in general, I think it happens like that, right? It just all of a sudden you have an idea to do something and, you have the faith to put the faith and then confidence in yourself to start. Because a lot of people don't have that, right? Don't have the thought that they can actually do something. I mean, I look at myself and think about, like, could I have, if somebody had said, hey, I'm going to have you start this, there's a lease out there to buy this bakery. You want to jump out and start the bakery? I don't know that I would have had the vision or the courage to do it, but you guys did. Yeah.
Well, he did. He had. I mean, he always wanted to be out of the corporate industry. I mean, he wanted to do it himself to show that he can create stuff, and that's the thing. Even to this day, he'll go in and change the recipe.
Yeah. And just so I'll throw this out there too. If you guys ever need any of the hotel recipes or any other creations from John's Bakery, he's got a Bible of all the recipes. I promise you one day we will put that together in a book so that we can publish that for you. But yeah, I think that's also because even today, as I look at, you still bake for all of us. I mean, and it's not just for family. It's not just for friends. When we have events, you still bake. And I know that that's your passion. I think one question I'd want to know is, you started off as a dishwasher. What led you to baking? Were you always, I know you weren't always in the baking world, right? You're a bartender.
He was a bartender.
Yeah.
Well, he had a side gig as a band. So he played the band.
What's happening right now? Who are these people? I'm just kidding.
So he had the band for the longest time.
What did you play? The guitar or
Drums.
the drums? Oh my goodness! Wow.
Money on that one, like they
Gigs.
give you $500
Yeah.
for one night.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay.
That was his. I mean, when I met him, that was his side gig.
You met him at a band at a concert.
No, actually, that's a neighbor.
You were what do they call those the roadies that follow the bands around? That's funny.
But they did a lot of the NCO clubs in Hawaii
Yeah.
when they had this side gig. So it was almost always on the weekend. And then he bartended.
So it wasn't like you always baked. Because how you have a passion for baking today, like I tell everybody who has an opportunity to taste your goods, is I'm like, that's my dad's love language. Like when we ask him for a dozen cookies, we get 4 dozen for cookies because you love to give. That's your way of showing emotion. But I think it's also, you're very passionate about the stuff that you create, right? It's not just, I mean, you do chocolate chip cookies because that's Rich's favorite, but you create other things inside of a cake or a tart or whatever. I thought it was something that you've just always enjoyed doing, just baking, but that wasn't something from the very beginning.
Evolved.
Yeah,
Because he started, I mean, once we started leasing the bakery, I had to find other avenues to help supplement it. So I went into cake
Cakes.
decorating.
Yeah.
So I took cake decorating classes. And I went all the way to pulled sugar.
Yeah. So you actually grew from the experience of just starting out. You did pastries because you knew pastries from from Tropicana.
Right.
And then you expanded that based off of you staying in the industry, right? And doing the things that you do, you learn like today, I think even in our business, for the mortgage side of it, you start somewhere in that mortgage journey and you grow and you advance and you lean into things that you really care about and resonate with you. So that's interesting. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what Vegas looked like then and now. How do you guys feel about, like, I know we talk about, well, could you sustain if the business were here? We're looking at potentially opening up a cafe or business today. What do you think the environment looks like today as a business owner and what Las Vegas looks like today compared to 1986?
It's always good, right? Because people are still moving in here
Yeah.
to Las Vegas.
Yeah, you have a different environment all the time. So there is growth, but you have to grow with the products too. I mean, you can't be stagnant with it. So you're always innovating. I mean, the bakery that we went to check out, that one's actually, for me, that is that's a specialty for sure.
Because it's ube. Yeah. Oh, because it's Hawaiian style or?
No, it's because nobody would bring out, I mean, that's a unique product. It's only, so you would have to introduce that to the different market. And that's why I was asking them if they had any commercial accounts, because that would be a good commercial account.
Yeah, and I know we're under NDA, so can't really discuss all the details of it, but I think that's also something to talk through because, you started off as a niche for just pastries. Today, if you started off in a business, I think it's important that you stay super focused on whatever that niche is. And so whether it's, a certain type of pastry or whether it's beautiful wedding cakes or whether it's delicious cookies or whatever it might be, staying focused on that and then getting your clientele like you did, right? You started this way, and then now all of a sudden you're like, well, I can venture out into doing wedding cakes because the chapels need assistance or whatever it might be. And so doing that today would definitely, are you saying that would be something that would be helpful to?
That's the direction the industry is going.
Yeah.
They're all connected.
Yeah, I feel like even in our business, I tell realtors all the time, hey, stay focused. I know there are open houses, direct mailers, door knocking, prospecting. You can do all these different things, but if you just stayed focused on one thing and did that one thing really well, you become known, consistent at it, you're doing all the reps at it, and then eventually you can expand as you've developed and established this as a continuous habit for yourself or product or whatever it might be. So it's all kind of interchanged in whatever it is today, right? Well, what about this? I know we're looking at these bakeries today, because as I go in and, Sydney and I are huge cafe dwellers in them, I feel like they're more retail than they are more wholesale. Do you feel like that's still a need today?
There is a need for the retail because you still have a market of the retail depending on your environment. I mean, your neighborhood.
Plus the area, right?
Yeah, and the community in that would increase your retail. But to be your wholesale will always be your bigger part if you open a bakery, because your back end is useless. Once you put out that product, that's the product that you're going to be selling out for the day.
Yeah.
So what's your empty product in the back? You have products there that's not going to be used unless you go out and do it wholesale.
Yeah. But are there still places that you can wholesale stuff like that too?
I mean, you can take the specialty product and take it to the grocery store.
That's true. Yeah.
Farmers.
Farmers market too. Yeah. You could kind of do that even to start over and start up again, is to create the niche product or specialty product. I like that word better. That you could take to even starting off as a farmer's market, and then you get notoriety. I think even today, your granddaughter likes to say she's going to create you an Instagram account so that she can expose you to the world. And she's got all these ideas around getting your cookies out to everybody. Because if you haven't had them, you definitely need to try them. If you want to try them, just let me know, because I'm sure we can make dozens of them for you. And I think that's something that we now is different, right? We talk about technology, automation. People are shipping across the country today.
Exactly.
Product,
Yeah.
like cookies, even cakes. I mean, somebody told me they got a cheesecake from New York. Like, I was like, how did that even make it here? Did it not melt? Las Vegas is 100 to 150 degrees. Like, but they have a special packaging for it, and it came in perfect. They just had to get it into a refrigerator as quickly as they received it. But have you thought about doing something like that?
And that's the thing, though. I mean, you can do it, and that's where you're right now. I was checking the cottage industry, but that you have to do that online sales. You would have to have a bigger environment. I mean, a work area.
So you need a
Doing it at
kitchen.
home- Yeah,
Yeah.
doing it at home won't be able to do it.
Well, and I think you could definitely hire out a kitchen, or not rent out a kitchen that you can go and create those things. I think it starts like you did back then in 1986, right? Come up with a business plan, and then create that business plan, and then start that business.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I know you guys are doing different things today, so let's talk a little bit about that, since John's Bakery is just part of our memory now, still something that's out there. But so tell me, I know you started real estate, and now you're back into real estate full time, and now you have now he's assisting you, or you are assisting him in the bakery, right?
I take away the garbage.
And you set up the nice open houses.
Right.
I walked into your open house the other day, and it's like, and so if you ever see they're doing open houses and you need a sweet treat, like you just go there. They had cookies, they had I think macaroons were in there. They had water, of course. Lots of goodies are there. Juices, yeah. You guys do a full spread. So tell me a little bit about what the industry looks like for you today as a realtor.
So the market today, I mean, like you said earlier, that you really have to have a focus. And and at my age, doing open houses used to be my passion, because I like meeting people. I like to do the face-to-face instead of the phone calls. But you have it be consistent is the factor that you need to put into it.
Yeah.
And so.
And does that change over time, the consistency option? Because I know you guys were very consistent. Like Dad, you'd be out of the house at like 10 o'clock at night, and you'd work all the way through. And that was just the regular routine, right?
Yeah.
Never changed as far as the business is concerned.
And that's the thing. You put in a lot of effort, a lot of work into it to make it grow. And with that, if you start, I mean, like at our age right now, part of our health is picking up on chipping off on a lot of these things. So there's days that we can't, you get up and you're hurt all over. So it's hard to go do an open house.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hot out there. And I mean, when you're a senior citizen, I didn't realize it until now I'm physically in it. It's hard to go out in the heat, because even if there's so much water you drink, you can't hydrate enough.
Yeah.
110 degrees.
So what would you say would be a good option to, if open houses isn't the thing, then what would you?
Well, now I'm back into calling.
Cold calling?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
And so you have
that's now that's the alternative that I have right now. I mean, I do write notes. I still handwrite my stuff.
yeah, that's old school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very
And
old.
I do get response with that. It might not be something on real estate, especially people that I know that came from my different background. They will ask me questions, and so it's that just me sending out that note card with my business card usually opens it up to conversation.
That's good. Well, and I think there comes a point in time when you're like, okay, I did a good job. My kids are doing well. They graduated from college. They have families. Like, you're okay to retire. But you guys are not retiring, or you're pseudo retired.
That's our exercise.
I swear that to everybody. I'm like, no, because my dad retired so when when he left the business, he went back into being a baker at different companies, at some of the hotels, and then come to find out he's going to retire from doing that. But then anything that we do where we need something, he is always on the spot to like, I'll help you. Let me figure that out. We were flipping houses and he was helping us demolish the homes. And I'm like, Dad, you're retired now. You're retired. Don't worry about it.
Need to exercise.
It's the exercise aspect of it. That's good. You do. I would agree with that.
That's what I do every morning.
Yeah.
Run around the house.
Yeah. Well,
Clean
yeah.
the
Now
house.
you've got your own gardening and things like that. But I still think you're not stopping, right? Because there are some people who just sit on the couch and like, okay, I've done my time and we're good to just enjoy the fruits of our labor, so to speak. But I feel like you're not there.
No, I don't think that will ever happen for me. In fact, because I would either be doing my crafts, doing something. I have to always occupy my mind, otherwise I'd be crazy.
Yeah. I hear that. It's crazy to think, even with Sydney being not gone, but her in college, there's a lot of open time. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm fortunate for the business side of it. I'm still in the business. And so it's helped as far as the business is concerned. But everybody asks me too, like, what hobbies do you have? I'm like, I like to eat food, which is not a really good hobby. And I like to work out. But you definitely have to stay busy. Yeah. So,
and I find that being creative actually makes you think of things to do instead of just following the routine of doing this every day, in and out.
Well, and I would encourage you because just hearing your story on how you started the business. I mean, age is but a number. And I know that there's, how you feel and your health and all that stuff. Some of that for me, I think could also be something, a mindset shift. Because if you guys took up like the things that you did to start the business, you applied even a percentage of that to doing the things that you want to do, like maybe farmer's market, because you guys love being out in front of the people. Maybe that's the next step for you guys. It still keeps you busy, right? Because all the fruits and the vegetables that you have, I mean, people will love that. We've been to many farmers markets in other cities, and that's it's crazy to see how much response there is to like local grown small business owners putting these things together. So maybe that really needs to be maybe we're talking through this and we're going to launch that business together after this. But maybe that would be the thing. But to shift back to your real estate, so one of the things, you have a great lending partner, which I appreciate your partnership in that. I do want you to talk a little bit about, I know you work with a lot of renters, and most recently we participated in a transaction with a first-time home buyer together that was looking to rent, right? So share a little bit about what that journey looked like for those.
So I do work with a lot of renters. And I mean, I was always brought up to own your home. So when I see these renters and I feel that they have the passion to own their own home when they're already looking at it and then go, oh, this should have been this and that should have been that. Then I start introducing, hey, did you know that if you bought, your investment that you're putting onto this wall would be returned to you instead of you leaving it with your landlord.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So that's the reason why I open up. I mean, not all the renters that I work with do that or are entertained with it. But you have a few that will say, "Oh, okay, let me go try the next step."
What do you think holds people back from buying when they're renters?
Well, the ones that we just closed recently, they just wanted to rent to begin because they wanted to see if this was the place that they wanted.
You mean
to
Las
live in.
Vegas or the
Yeah,
area? Oh,
Las
okay.
Vegas.
Okay.
So when I told them that you can buy your house now, if you're not moving in 2 or 3 years, that house will make you money, and so in 2 or 3 years you can sell it and go to a different place.
Yeah.
And so that's what got them to thinking. And so the next week they said, let's look at houses to buy. We have grandpa and grandma help us with the money.
Yeah. Well, do you think that might be some of it? Because I think even without the grandparents' help with the down payment, they still could have qualified to buy on their own. I think it made it a little bit easier, but I think it's also having the goal or the dream of home ownership.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people don't realize what that is. I think, because I don't know, for John and I, we obviously lived in homes all the time, right? They were owned homes. So I think it was just innate for us to buy a house when we were ready to buy a home. And you guys always promoted that, hey, if we can buy you a home, let's buy a house. Let's buy a house. Even today, you're like, hey, let's buy a house, flip it. Let's buy a house, let's flip it. You guys have always been real estate investor minded. And I think, and I don't know that everybody has that same mentality. So what would you say to somebody today that is not really in that mindset? How do you encourage them to maybe overcome whatever it is they are from being permanent renters to actually owning a home?
Well, for somebody that's not has the mindset of renting, because I'm talking to one right now, and their drawback is their credit. So but they want to own a home someday. So that someday, it will be, I mean, you determine that someday, if it's the next year or in 5 years, and then you work through it, clear up your credit, and then you'll get to that. And you'll be surprised that you're paying $2,600 for a house that you're going to rent. You're not going to get any of that back.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I think I do agree that sometimes people don't understand and realize what it looks like to build wealth in real estate. Because even we started off with like a small, what was that little KB home that was off of I remember the street name Glassboro for whatever reason,
right.
But it was a tiny home for us, right? And then you move into a different home, and then we went to the Blue Diamond home, and then yeah, but some of them started as just low down payment, and then you got some equity from it, which you used towards the next home. And then now, we've made decisions to just, because we're in a position that you could keep those homes and keep them as investment properties today. And now they're cash flowing for us and renting. And I think that's something I'm grateful for both of you for teaching me. And I know even Sydney today, as she's in college, this is something that she's looking at doing. She's the one that really kind of helped guide the path of finding the home that we have for her and that we're looking at doing in San Diego. And I think that starts with you guys, right? Just constantly being the ones to push us to, not push us, that's not the right word, but encourage us to really see the benefit in real estate investing in different ways. Yeah.
Well, our very first home that we bought, I mean, coming from Hawaii, we thought we could purchase a home there, and we saved for 2 years and we couldn't come up with the down payment. So we decided to move to California. And our very first home we bought for $30,000.
Oh my gosh.
And
Man, if we had that house still.
and we were excited. We did our own landscaping. We had a huge backyard. And then 9 months after, we decided, well, we have, that's when John came. We had to get a different house, a bigger house, because this was a 3-bedroom. We went to a 4-bedroom, which was down the street, and bought it for $74,000.
That is crazy. So
we doubled our house. We sold the house for the little house at $30,000, doubled it.
Wow. So you put that money towards the down payment?
Put it on the other house.
Well, and that is the concept of building wealth, right there, right? It's constantly it's taking one vehicle and whether you keep it or you sell it to apply to another vehicle. Because we had our home that Sydney was raised in, right, for forever, and the mortgage on that is pretty much almost paid down, and we bought another home. As empty nesters were buying this home, but the mortgage on this home that we had is offsetting pretty much the mortgage on our new home. And so for me, it's almost like a rent-free situation because our tenants are paying for our mortgage today, right? And that's how, and then at the same time, the equity is building in both properties. So that is really the concept of building wealth in real estate. Through real estate. So, well, I wanted to ask you one question, and I asked this of myself as I turned 50 this year, but what would you, and I want both of you to answer this, so what would you tell your younger self today, whether it's in business, whether it's in real estate?
I would tell my younger self to be more into the consistency, because I'm one of those that got into the medical field because it was the fastest and easiest way to get in to do as a surgical technician instead of going through the 4-year college like my other sisters and brothers did. So I wanted to make sure that, not going to the easy way out, but be consistent in what you're doing. And you will, to this day now that I'm a little bit older, I know that I have to be consistent to be able to stay where I am.
I love that. That's great. So it's consistency, but then did you say that for you when you were, don't take the easy route also?
Don't take the easy route.
You feel like you did that?
I did that because I don't know whether because I'm the oldest that I needed to create income to help support the family.
Yeah.
But, and that was the fastest thing. I had a 2-year certificate program. And instead of doing the 4-year. But, so that's the reason why I was hopping from one hospital to the other, because the more I moved, the more money I would make.
Yeah. Yeah. But do you think that if you did the 4-year, do you think it would have changed the trajectory of you guys operating that business together? Because you probably couldn't have had as much time there, right?
No, it probably would not we would not have had that.
Yeah, so maybe
So
it was a blessing either way.
It's actually all meant for good.
I would agree. But definitely, so you would tell your younger self to be consistent and then not to take the easy road. I love it. How about you, Dad?
So I will always love to be in business.
Stay in business? Yeah. Well, in business as far as what? So you would tell yourself to just, instead of going back to the casinos or the hotels to work, just find another opportunity to run a business.
To run a business.
Yeah. Well, we're going to try to do that for you today, soon, right? You'll run our bakery?
Yeah, but the bakery, we went to look at it.
Yeah.
Too small and too expensive.
Too small and too expensive. Well, it is a little, it's a little bit longer than 1986. Oh, it's tiny. We'll have to find the right business, but always to be in business. So you'd prefer, you would tell your younger self to just stay in business and not be afraid and to believe in yourself, right? Because I think a lot of that is to
Just do the right way.
What does that mean?
The right way means that you don't cut.
Ah, I like that. Yeah, do everything the right way. Be consistent. Don't take shortcuts. Yeah, your grandkids who will be watching this, I'm sure, should be listening very closely, and everyone else that is listening as well. Well, that was really, I'm just grateful for you guys coming on. I mean, I am a little bit ashamed to say that some of the stories, and maybe it's because in my 50 years now, I have lost a little bit of memory of what that looked like. Yeah, but I'm grateful for you, really for you being pioneers in our family, to show us how to be entrepreneurs, to teach us how to be real estate investors. And then, you never know if the journey for us could be that we go full circle and open a new bakery that we didn't as kids want to have. I think it's funny because I ask Sydney all the time, like, hey, you want to help me with this? You want to help me with that? And now I understand it's not as fun to, I made that same, when she's like, nope, I don't want to help you. Not that she doesn't want to help me, but she's like, nope, that doesn't bring me joy. But I understand now we did the same thing when we
Yep.
were,
You guys
were kids.
said, no, we don't want to sleep in the bakery.
Oh my gosh. And I think that's crazy too, because I think as, in life, you do things that you have to do. Now, we didn't really necessarily have a choice, but I would have done the same thing, right, for Sydney today, if that was to mean that it would help her to advance her in whatever it is, to go to private schools, go to gymnastics or whatever it might be. We would have done anything to take care of her.
And being in business, you're always looking at your bottom line. So what is it that you want? And for some, I mean, especially when we were in business, labor was high. So we couldn't employ anybody if we went and paid less money than what the hotel we were paying, we wouldn't have anybody employed.
Yeah.
So we did have to do our own work. That's the reason why we were both in the bakery all day, all night.
Yeah. Well, you did hire people though too. So I think that is the concept of just growth, right? And which it helped you to grow. You guys expanded. I looking back on it, I didn't realize how big the bakery really was, because it was like our family-owned operation, small enough that it was just us, right? Because it was all family or majority of it was family that was working in there. But in order for you to grow, you definitely have to have other people in your business to allow you to expand. Otherwise, you'll stay stuck. I believe that even in my own business today, if I hadn't hired even an assistant, I'd be stuck doing the things, and I wouldn't be able to do things like this and have the kind of growth that we've seen, even in the time that we're at in 2024. So, so they can look for you as far as a real estate agent on social media.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll put her description below, and then we'll probably, I think your granddaughter is going to set you up on a Instagram page for your cookies. But truly, if you have not had one of John's Bakery's cookies, you definitely need to hit us up. Let me know. I'm happy to deliver a dozen or two to you. And then thank you guys again for jumping on, and I love and appreciate you both. And for that, stay tuned for our next episode. Make sure that you share this and you subscribe and click the notification button. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.